Ed has been leading the way on our coverage of big deals, including the recent ones with CBS Viacom and Hasbro Entertainment One. Now that CBS and Viacom are coming together, the thinking is that this combined company will streamline operations and wait for a buyer to come in eventually. Do you think sports rights come up for grabs as a result?
I think that sports rights are always on the cycle to come up for grabs, but I think that they will continue to rise for many reasons.
David, another thing that's been on the rise is the value of some of these sports franchises. We've seen many go for over $1 billion now, a few go for over $2 billion, most recently, obviously, the Brooklyn Nets to Joe Tsai. Are we going to get a recession in the value of franchises? It just seems to be going up and up and up all the time, like the market.
There hasn't been a recession in sports franchises for the last 35 years, and I don't anticipate that there will be, because it's really tied into their media rights. And media rights continue to go up. Globalization is the friend of the sports league content, and sports gambling will enhance those media rights and sponsorship rights. So things are looking, I think, very good if you're a sports league or you own an NBA franchise or any other franchise.
Let's talk about that evolutionary process and the disruption there within, because is it that sports rights will become ever more powerful and more expensive because there are more players fighting over them? You don't just have the networks, you don't just have TV linear as it was anymore, you've got Amazon in there, Facebook. Is this what's been making the bidding so competitive? Well,
it's going to be very interesting. I think the FANGs are going to realize that the way you get and keep viewers is with sports rights. And I think they sat on the sidelines for the last round of sports negotiations. But now they're busy with sort of, Amazon has the USTA in London. Imagine that, of all places, London. Okay. I'm on the wrong panel to make fun of the Brits. Okay,
yeah,
I'll behave myself. Okay.
We can make fun of ourselves.
No. But, and certain, and baseball is in certain places, and Facebook has a baseball package. These are all small packages, but they're dipping their toe in the water. And when the sports rights come up for other leagues, I believe they're going to be players.
The other thing with this, though, David, and you and I have talked about this before, is that the way that sports rights are expanding, because it's not just about the pure content anymore. You have all of these different things you can tune into, track individual players. You yourself invest in a lot of this, tracking the sort of, I suppose, the metrics of players during the game through augmented reality or VR. I guess my question with that is, who is going to own these rights? Who actually does that data belong to? Is it the teams, is it the players, or do the media companies just buy it all in one bulk lot?
I think it's going to be ultimately a source of negotiation between the leagues and the players. And that will be worked out, because the greatest economic hit here in a positive way is going to be if the league can deliver it to the network, to those that want to make use of it, to sports betting and the like. It doesn't have the same value if it's bifurcated or really just pulverized into a bunch of small rights.
And I'm glad Ed brought up the player, because that's another change that we've seen in the last decade or so, the power of the individual player. They're in a better position, especially the stars, to call the shots and set the terms for the owners. What happens when technology comes in and starts becoming a bigger player here? How do they interact with these star players?
Well, I will say that one of the reasons the players are so well known is because the leagues have helped introduce them to social media. And so LeBron James has probably 50 some odd million Instagram followers, Twitter followers, whatever. And that's important for individual players to do that. But all players are now doing that. And it isn't so recent. I don't want to date myself, but there was this gentleman named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay, so recency bias then.
Who didn't want to be in Milwaukee, and there was a trade, strangely enough, to the Lakers. And so in sports, there has always been player power, and the pendulum swings back and forth, and it will continue to swing. And now we're in an era where the players, which is great for the leagues and the players. The players are, the thing that makes me happiest about the current day NBA is that the players are at the top of the celebrity pyramid. They used to be in the basement 35 years ago, but now they're at the top. And that's great for them, that's great for the league, and we'll have to see whether the pendulum has swung too far or not.
David, I want to start with the big splash that the Business Roundtable made a few weeks ago, saying they're no longer pursuing a shareholder-first model. A company's mandate is to all of its stakeholders, its customers, its employees, society at large, in addition to investors. This is potentially huge if it ends up being more than just lip service.
It will be. As you know, we have something in the NBA called NBA Cares, and in the WNBA as well. And you go to corporations and you say to them, you owe something to your employees, to your customers, to your shareholders, to your community, and to the greater community. If you're a polluter, you are hurting the greater community. I don't know, you don't want to talk about drilling in the Arctic, Ed, but, we'll get it in, we'll drop it in someplace. But if you're viewed as corrupting the ecosystem, that's going to be very bad for business.
All right, but the other hat you wear is as an investment banker, as an advisor to a lot of these companies. Obviously, they're concerned about this, and obviously they're doing a lot to try and sort of assuage any image against not doing stakeholder capitalism. But are they actually making meaningful changes to their business, or is this just lip service?
No, I don't believe it's lip service. PJT Partners has acquired Camberview and ESG, environmental, shareholder, governance, et cetera. It's a big deal. And corporations are taking it very seriously because you don't know where the next protest is going to be. You have to be very careful, as well it should be.
Let's bring it back to sport and also a bit of music, because I'm a massive JayZ fan, and he has teamed up seemingly with the NFL, which was slightly surprising to me rather than NBA, about amplifying the league's social justice as well as enhancing the live game experiences. Is he the right person to be doing this? Is the NFL doing enough within the sport to be able to amplify players' rights, social justice?
I have to figure out a way to answer that without answering it, okay?
We appreciate your honesty.
Suffice it to say that the NFL understands, as all sports leagues do, that social responsibility, social justice is an important area and an important area of discussion between leagues and players. And JayZ, who was initially an investor in the Brooklyn Nets, so he has a sports background, is their approach to dealing with that issue. Whether that ultimately is successful or not, we'll have to wait to see.
Do you think it's cynical?
Moi? Cynical? No. Well, let's see how successful it is. It doesn't matter why you do it. If it turns out to be a great result, then that's what the NFL should be judged on. And I don't think it's cynical. I think it was something that they figured was one approach to dealing with an issue that has bedeviled them a bit, and we'll see how that works out. I think it'll work out well.